Welcome to Fails, Falls, and Fuck Ups. Today I'm joined by my original fuck up, the man who kicked all of this off because he needed to keep me away from him and occupy my time somewhere else. Joining me is Barry B. Coffing. I don't know his middle name is B, but it has a nice alliterative effect, so I'd really like it to be Barry B. Coughing.
It's a J, but that's close enough.
It's not as much fun. I am not as satisfied and not as happy with what your mother did to you.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry. It was more my dad, but that's fine.
How are you doing today? I pretend to care.
I'm doing good. I pretend to answer. No, I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. Once again, we're talking now. What the non existent as yet, because we haven't released this at all, viewers and listeners don't know, is that this very concept was born out of Barry's brain because we did a different podcast on a different show. But it is very similar to what we're going to do now. But he said, this is what you should do. And being the lemming that I am, I'm doing what I should be done doing.
You were definitely asking the unique questions of "Don't give me the glory, give me the gory."
Yes. I just, again, when somebody is as successful and as accomplished as you, aside from hating you for that,
Ha!
and I so do, I just want to hear in all the ways that you are not successful and what you have learned from that. Because ultimately, the message I'm trying to get out is that you're not you, the royal your fuck ups, the royal your fuck ups are the fertile ground from which success can grow from, provided you're not a moron. And since I don't know you, I have no idea whether you are or not. I'm just hoping you're not a moron,
I'm,
listener.
I'm a consistent moron. We'll put it that way.
Cool. So we're talking to Mr. Consistent Moron about some of his fails. So, Barry, regale us with your tales of how your skills and success were born out of problems and mistakes.
Wow. So I guess we can do the quick overview. I was born in Dayton, Ohio, to two high school sweethearts, and they got married at 18, had me at 19, as was the method in that day. They graduated class of 1960. They thought that happiness was a place, so our family moved to a million places searching happiness, from Ohio, Indiana, Florida, Texas, ultimately California. And so I was a new kid in school. It took me 16 schools to make it through 12th grade. So that can give you an idea of how often I was the new kid. And so I had a lot of experiences with that, starting up with being the new kid. My first F up is I wanted to be a football player, and then my freshman year of high school, I screwed up my back and my elbow and couldn't even go to PE.
What position were you trying to play?
I was a offensive guard, defensive tackle.
Taking the big hits.
Yeah, I was never gonna really. Yeah, I'm a pretty big guy, but not big enough. So I was never really gonna make it. But I got really hurt, and so I ended up at a school that was split in Dunedin, Florida, and so I was able to take four choir classes a day. I took two electives on my thing, but they were a school that had outgrown their school, so they did juniors and seniors in the morning and freshmen and sophomores in the afternoon. And I had been part of their program in the junior high leading up to it, so I ended up doing four choir classes a day, and that was sort of the first pivot of wow, I screwed up my back, I screwed everything up, and then I ended up, failing my way into music. My family was very musical, but we did that, and then we, in part as part of our happiness quest, ended up moving to Texas, where I tried my sophomore year, tried football again, but was in choir, and I went,
Did you get ribbed by being when you were on the football team because you were in choir and the theater department? So that must have gone over great.
"Oh yeah, so a choir queer and a stupid jock." Yes, depending on where I was. So yeah, the football team didn't get me being in choir and doing musicals and that stuff, and then all the people in the choir and the musical in the drama department hated my guts
And you
because
were the new kid, so not only did you have no friends, you had negative friends.
they just automatically assumed, yeah, well, you're one of those. Boom, we're not even going to give you a chance. So I ended up my junior year. I auditioned for and got into the high school for the performing and visual arts in Houston, which is where Beyonce went. It was the second high school for the performing visual arts in the United States, and it was amazing. Changed my life. Um,
Gave you rhythm.
yeah, did really, really, really well at that. And then keeping in my line of F ups, got a scholarship to Juilliard, but my family couldn't afford all of the living expenses. Like they would pay for the school, but they're not going to. They wasn't enough. Wasn't enough that they were going to keep putting me up there. So I couldn't get that. We couldn't really get financial aid for some other unique reasons, and so I ended up with an opera scholarship at HBU in Houston. Was the thing I took, and boy, hated it. There's another F up. I was, because in order to teach music, they want to put a bunch of rules on something that doesn't have rules so they can grade you. And so I would ignore them. They said, we're going to go up to a German six. That's as far as you can write. I'm going, yeah, watch this. I got nines, sevens, 11s. I'm doing really cool stuff and getting horrible grades for it. And then I'm on a vocal scholarship. And of course, for the freshmen, they put my voice lessons at, 8 a.m. in the morning on Monday.
Wonderful.
And I got into a gig playing out at the Woodlands at a real kind of on the lake sort of rich person's club for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But I was singing 3 hours a night and tearing up my voice, and I'd get in there on Monday, could barely talk. And they basically said, we're going to, yeah, you're our most promising freshman, but if you don't quit all the rocking and the rolling, we're going to take your scholarship. So I went, it's yours. Another maybe not the smartest thing.
Well, how much would have following the masters have helped you later on in your career?
To be honest, not at all. The other thing too is a male voice doesn't mature until it's 40.
Hmm.
I was super immature, and so I was going to fail at that too, So I failed early and often, So I got out of that. Um, Tried really was struggling. I started playing in bands and thought I'll just do that until I figure out what I'm going to do. Took another stab at college at the University of Houston, where I proceeded to completely F off and take radio and TV performance. I took crap that I wanted to take, and then financial problems with the family, happened. And basically my money I saved up for college ended up going for rent. So I went F college, so we're not doing that. And I started playing in bands. And then I figured I'd do that until I figured out what I was going to do for a living. And somewhere 2 to 3 years later, I realized, that thing you're looking for, you're kind of doing it already.
Was there anything about the academic experience that ultimately paid off in any way? Or was it like, this is a great knowledge base, but it doesn't apply?
It was horrible for me. Like when I, because the thing when you go to a high school like that, like if you go to a normal college and we're going to sing in Latin, I'm going, dude, I can sight read Latin. Like I was so far, like I'd already gone to college. Basically, that high school was so like they stay an extra hour, you don't have any PE. So you're doing 4 hours a day in your art area. Combine that with my lucky break in Florida, I was already doing, I'd already had, basically 3 years of working multiple hours, not including the time at night and all that stuff. Uh, I really already had a college's worth of singing experience in choirs and things like that. So they didn't have anything to teach me. Had I been able to go to a Juilliard or a Berkeley or a USC or maybe a Belmont, North Texas, one of those schools, I think it could have been fine. But I wasn't able to do that, so it just wasn't a place for me. And and that's fine. I ended up the School of Hard Knocks and screwing my way up to playing in bands. And the first bands, my brother was my agent, which was even funnier because he was younger. And man, he would book me at these god awful places. I played a place called the Harbor Lights by the Ship Channel, and I mean chicken wire. I mean all the stuff you're talking about. And I'd watch all my friends, that were playing in the cool jazz clubs, and they'd sit down and talk to the people that came to see them. So I'm at this. I mean, it was bikers and sailors and hookers. Oh my! I mean, those were the patrons, right? So I decide I'm going to practice what I've seen those other guys do. Another one of my epic fails.
Going up and talking to drunk sailors about, like, so, do you liking the music?
Oh, it gets worse than that. But yes, along those lines. So we're there. They got chicken wire in front of the band. We've set up. We're ready to play. The club owner goes over and gives us the talk. Now we get some fights around here. Somebody starts fighting. You some bitches keep playing. Don't you effing stop. You just keep playing. We got security. We got good people. We'll get it all cleaned out. But don't you stop the music. We're going, that's kind of creepy, but okay, you know?
Southern mosh pit.
Yeah, so I go on one of the breaks and I'm sitting down talking to this one girl, kind of Hispanic girl, and she's kind of cute and all this. I talk to her. Then I kind of table hop and talk to this other girl that's kind of back in the day a tube top, but clearly kind of a biker chick kind of girl. So we get up and we're playing the Eagles one of these nights, and I'm the bass player in this thing. So I'm doing the intro, which is like boom, 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 boom. And I see the two girls walk over and start talking to each other. And next thing we know, it's a full-on girl fight. So we're doing this. It erupts into a complete chaos. The little Mexican girl grabs the biker girl, who's like got her by a foot, pulls her tube top down, moves her out there. She starts wailing. I mean, you can't believe the chaos. So that was my first mingle with the crowd at the wrong place.
I'm curious, at this bar, did one of the bikers or sailors come up and go like, "This is our feeding ground. You go feed yourself somewhere else, boy."
No, thank God. But needless to say, I was no longer flirting at that point. We were done. And I was also younger, so we had different bands. Like we had one band we used to joke and call it Burying the Beards. Like I was 19 years old and everybody else was like, in their 20s and 30s. But I booked the band. I had the acumen for getting us gigs. And so it was just I was always kind of the idiot odd man out.
But you had the gift of the schmooze, so
Yeah. Yeah, and my brother being working at a booking agency and stuff, I knew the lingo, and I was able to look at the contracts. So it just ended up I did there's always in every band some idiot that does the business. I was that guy. And so we kept growing, doing better, and I got to the point where I was playing at one of the bigger clubs, and I was also acting at the same time. I had an acting agent, and I was doing commercials and stuff like that, like little stupid dinky things, doing modeling and acting. And I got a chance to be in a movie, a horror film. At the time, it was called The Outing. They've now changed it to The Lamp, but it's one of those '80s scream, lightning strike movies. But they were going to do a week of night shoots, so I was going to miss a week at the venue we were playing, and the band I'd already sort of I had a really great band that I was in, and I had wanted to take the band regional because we were playing at a place in a rooftop that held 200 or 300 people, and it was an '80s meat market. Like the fact we were playing was nice, but they were there to see each other.
you need a soundtrack to cover all of the mating calls. So
Oh yeah,
you were
definitely.
needed. You were definitely needed.
Well, I mean, we did what we did, but I was going to take the band around Texas and kind of create a touring circuit, but I got outvoted, so we're there. And then the club owner says, "Look, if you miss any time doing this movie thing, I'll fire the entire band." And so the band gets together and they have a band meeting, and they say, "Hey, we want to have a talk," and my band fires me.
You got fired from your band because the $20 they were making per night was far too much.
No, no, they were making good money.
Oh, not as much fun of a story.
They stayed at the club and they got rid of me.
Did you ever go back to the club to see them after like something else happened for you and sort of like, "Hey guys, just checking in to see how you're doing because I'm doing great."
Not really. I mean, a lot of those guys were still my friends, and later on, they kind of, some people kind of went, you know what, we're kind of sorry that we did that. Um, we didn't really mean, we were young, we didn't know, kind of thing. And it was great. It's all, I mean, they did what they thought was right at the time. But anyway, so I was there with no band, no nothing. So I started playing with this one horn band of older guys, and I kind of was just doing that, and I'm playing at one of the hotels, and some friends had come out to see me, and one of the guys, the bass player, had gotten so drunk that he falls over in the middle of a song, hits the ground, and he lays down there and keeps playing. Well, it turns out he has hurt his back and can't get up. They have to call an ambulance to take him out. The horn section. I mean, they were older guys that like to drink on the job. We'll put it that way. And a lot of them are now clean and sober and all that kind of stuff. But
But back then it was standard practice.
of course, and so I'm looking, I'm going, man, this can't go on. And that's one of my other famous stories. What would become my wife of many, 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 many years, still my wife, said, well, hey man, well, you got to get a regular job. Why don't you get a job at McDonald's or something, while you're doing these, because these pickup jobs, you shouldn't be doing the terrible band or whatever. And I went, wow, it's like, this is a pretty big fall. Cause that was the top club to, you know, am I going to be back in the chicken wire circuit again?
Chicken fryer circuit.
No joke, man. So I called a couple of girls I went to school with, and really great singers. And one of them was teaching music at a Jewish nursing home, and the other one was a medical secretary. And I'm going, man, you guys aren't playing? And they're going, we'd love to be singing and playing, but nobody will hire us. I'm going, I'll hire you. Let's start a band. So I took the guitar player from the Drunken Horn band, and we kind of put together this new thing with two wailing black girls, and we started to, put together the demo tapes and everything to start booking. And one of the booking agents kind of pulled me aside and said, "Yeah, man, yeah, we can't really book you." And I'm going, "Why?" Well, you get one colored, that's okay, but you get two colored. See, they draw a colored crowd, and the colored crowd, they don't drink, they don't tip. But they basically told me, get rid of one of the black girls or we won't book you. You can have one token. And I went, F you. That just triggered something in me, but still no one would hire me. So there'd be a jazz club that was um, called Baxter's, where there are all these great artists and really a great scene there. And it had been taken over. It was in a part of town that was kind of the gay part of Houston called Montrose. It still is. And the guys that had bought it were really having a terrible time. Nobody was going there. They changed it they called it the Club Flamingo, and it was horrible. And I walked in the bar and I said, man, this used to be a hot happening, line out the door music club. Why don't you let me and my two fine ladies come in here for 4 nights only and let us show you what a live band can do for you? And we didn't leave for 6 months. We turned the club half straight, lines out the door. Took it over again, And at the beginning, people would come and laugh and, oh, Barry's playing a gay bar. And then the very band that fired me ended up playing on my off nights one weekend or something, or we took a vacation and they were filling in for me. So it was like there was my comeuppance, if you want to talk about it. But it turned into back into a really great club and all that. So then it was then that I kind of sort of failed my way into Los Angeles. I met a wild man named Steve Tyrell, who was from Houston, and he had discovered BJ Thomas and worked with Burt Bacharach and Scepter Records. He was a radio promo guy, one of those sell ice to Eskimos guy. And he was working with Barry Mann, an incredible songwriter. And they started a company called Tyrell Mann, and they were looking for songwriters and producers. And they kept talking to different people in Houston, and my name kept coming up. Oh, he's a good songwriter. Oh, that guy can sing. Oh, he's a really good producer. And I kept coming up and under all those, and they finally said, man, why don't you come on out here to LA and, let us hear your stuff and all that. So I grabbed the demos of the band and everything and ran out there. And the first trip out there, I ended up, Steve was working on Extremities with Farrah Fawcett. And it was James Russo's first film. And he went in and said, you know, he said, hey, what do you got? He's got an interesting voice. He grew up in the Third Ward, kind of the Italians and the blacks, and it was a real mixed neighborhood. So when you hear him on the phone, he sounded like, he's going, yeah, Barry, come on in. He sounded like a different person than what he was, ethnically anyway. And so he goes, we got a driving scene. We need a song. Have you got anything? I pull out one of my songs. He goes, that'll work. Boom, I'm in the movie. I come out, and the next time he's doing 8 Million Ways to Die. It was Oliver Stone's script, Roseanne Arquette. It was Andy Garcia's first film, and really, really a cool film. And I had one of the things from my band that had fired me, one of the masters from that session, and I put that in the movie, and I went, that's it, honey, we're going to LA. So I ended up booking my then band. I'd gotten a role in an off Broadway version of Leader of the Pack, where I played songwriter Jeff Barry from the Brill Building, uh, and met Ellie Greenwich, who'd written the screenplay. She was his co-writer, and so instead of getting fired from for doing something in the acting world, I got all my girls' roles in it, and the band was the band in the pit. So we moved the whole band in to do a like a 6 week run. And as it turns out, I was gonna get married, and they changed the closing date, and so the closing date for the play was the day of my wedding.
That sounds complicated.
Oh my gosh. So after my wife got done crying, we just kinda thought it out. We moved it to an afternoon wedding, and we bought 70 tickets to the play for the reception. And so and so we, like, kind of, you could make some
We
lemonade out
don't
of the
have to
lemons.
rent a hall. We can just have an after party.
Exactly. And so it was fun because, like, a lot of the relatives that came in, that who's this wacko that's marrying into, because she has a very normal family and I have.
And they got you. This normal family got you.
Well, I mean, when we went to the wedding, oh my gosh, the bride and groom side, my side looked like the United Nations. My best man was Jewish. My groomsmen were black, Colombian. It was like a whole mixed bag, and then hers just looked like a sorority ball. It was a unique wedding, and of course, I wrote my own music to walk down the aisle to. And a friend of mine, Everett Harp, who's an incredible sax player, he mixed it for me, and everything while we were finishing.
I love the idea of you walking down the aisle with like a sax person following you, just like playing a tune.
He did play soprano sax like Kenny G on the song too, but no, he was one of my groomsmen, so he had to actually be in it, so he couldn't walk down the aisle. But it was
Don't tell
it
me what he couldn't do. I'm just saying you didn't
yeah.
think far enough outside the box. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get accused of that a lot. Not. Yeah, so it was my whole life's been really unique, and just some of the bigger f ups, the things that you think are terrible, a lot of them, either they turn out to be the best stories, or they teach you so much and put you, like, you don't really fail. You learn. And you fail if you fail to learn the lessons and do it again and again and again. But I learn a lot more by failure than I ever do about success.
Can you think of a time in your career where there was a moment where it felt like a bomb had gone off? Like this could not have gone more wrong. And at the time you couldn't see the silver lining to it. But then it paid off later on in unexpected ways.
Yeah.
Something that crushed you or almost crushed you.
In all my stupidity, and I have a lot of it,
Mhm.
I'd kind of grown up in Texas, so I watched South by Southwest evolve. My band was supposed to play the second South by that there ever was, and we had an A&R agent who said, "No, I'll come see you in Houston." He gets drunk in Austin, never comes and sees us, and we turned down South by. So another maybe not great idea, but so when I'd kind of been coming back and forth, to see South by, it was never as cool as when I was there, because we used to play on 6th Street. There's all these clubs and stuff. It was an incredible scene. Drinking age was 18 too, which made it even better. But I would always tell everybody, like, that they like South by Southwest has lost its way. It's not a cool thing anymore. I could do a better festival anytime on my worst day. And somebody's accidentally, like fate accidentally calls me on it. There's a venue called Crossroads, what's basically uh what is it? It's basically the center of Houston. If you were to put a pin in the middle of Houston where the population was, that's where this place was. And a really kind of a hip mixed use stuff with restaurants and bars and living spaces, with a big outdoor area for a stage, ringed by all these bars. And they said, "Do you want to do a festival here?" One of my friends was booking it and all that. And I say, "Yeah, I do. I'll take that main stage, and I'll go ahead and um, I'll do that." And of course, this is like 3 weeks before, so I end up booking 54 bands on 2 stages with 2 weeks notice. Yeah, exactly. Yes, my son's got rehearsal. So yeah, so they so we do that, and I get some friends and everything. We put it all together. We think we've got things plotted out, and We can't get any sponsorship because there's a lot of multiple screw ups. At the end of the day, I end up losing a boatload of money. And I press a two album, two CD soundtrack of all the bands on there, do all this stuff. Then the people that have the place, the event, they say, yeah, we don't want any hip hop or R&B on the main stage. So this is like a reoccurring thing for me. I don't know why. So they're going, yeah, we don't want those people on there. So I had the space, but now they're going to tell,
Those people.
yeah, those people. So in the actual venue, they had this crazy place. It was a flower shop, coffee shop, restaurant with a stage. And so I'm going, hey, can we have you as part of this too? So I move all the hip hop indoors, put a second stage, and do what I want anyway. It's a theme with me. I also tied in with the film school at the Houston Community College. So we had 3 cameras shooting the whole thing.
Smart.
And we've got stages and we've done all this stuff. We've done everything that we can do. We've got one of the recording studios gets us a 24-track recording. We record all the bands. We do interviews. We go over to the flower shop, coffee shop, and we do 2 days of panels and workshops where the bands would they would they would sit down at a table and there'd be all the social media people there. Then they'd move to another table for producers and another one for labels. And I had all kinds of people involved. And I do this whole thing and end up losing a fortune.
Like, are we talking Prius level fortune, BMW level fortune?
Well, what was a fortune for me? It was probably 7 or 8 grand.
Okay, so a used Datsun level of fortune.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But for me, money I didn't have. Somebody else had to come and bail me out. Thanks, Heidi. Just like really crazy stuff like that. And I'd worked so hard, and it was one of those like curl up in a ball, and I can't believe this could happen. But 12 months go by, I'm ready to try it again. And I try this other version. Obviously, I don't go back to that venue. I try another thing, and it's another epic fail. I don't lose as much money, but it's bad. Well, first time I failed, curl up in a ball. Second time I failed, I wanted a rematch. I went, let's run it. Like I was pissed. I wanted to do it again. And and as somebody, as a continued F up, I have done 15 of those since. I've done it in Memphis, Houston, San Diego. I've done, with COVID, we had one eliminated completely, one of the Memphis ones. We did one in Chicago virtual. We did a San Diego boot camp virtual. Then we did a Columbus virtual. Uh, you know, s- and it's continued to be what some people would consider a failure. But I always like to look at things on 3 levels. There's money, there's knowledge, there's power. I got to get one of the 3 things, or it's not worth doing. And in this case, I got more knowledge and power, like and marketing credibility. It's been one of the most valuable things I ever did, but you wouldn't think so. At the beginning, it looked like, why are you doing this? You're an idiot. My whole company, it took them 3 or 4 years to they were questioning my sanity. But we started using it as a way to find incredible bands for film and TV. I made all these relationships. When you say, "Oh, I love what you did managing Guns N' Roses. I'd love to have coffee with you." You're going to get an F off, you know. But if you say, "Hey, I'm doing a panel. Would you like to speak on it? I'll fly you in, put you up in a hotel." Suddenly, it's a completely different deal. So I gained more connections, more knowledge, more everything in what appears to be a failed event. And now the credibility, the size of the events. If you go to springboardfest.com and watch the videos, you won't think it's a failure. And the people that we help, the good that we do, we ended up starting our own nonprofit called Sustainable Artists, and our entire goal is to teach people how to make a living. It's one thing to get people started; it's another thing to take them to the next step.
Well, you're a natural networker, but it sounds like doing this festival, the horror show that it might have emotionally been for the first couple years, what it did is it effectively put you at the center of the spider's web.
Definitely. And more as we do it. And then uh, COVID, which you think would be a complete disaster, taught us how to do virtual concerts and how to include. So the last one of those that we did, we had we had 47 bands from 13 different countries. So now we're starting to have bands because we had them perform wherever they were around the world and videotape themselves and send it in. And then we broadcast it in a continuous 8-hour show. And so we had a guy in Turkey playing acoustic guitar on a grassy knoll while a balloon race, hot air balloon race was going behind him in Istanbul. We had a Russian band, Aitler, who performed outside of St. Petersburg in a forest. They had a laptop on a tree stump and hung a microphone over a tree and rapped in Russian. Like it started being all these incredible bands. We had an Indian girl who was stranded in Dubai who just like draped a gold curtain and sang a cappella with their backing tracks. And all this incredible art and artistry that came out of this. And we got to see we had an ex-model who's an incredible bluesy southern singer out of the UK who sang in her kitchen.
Hopefully while making tea. That would have just it just would have been like a nice.
I'm sure she could have made some great tea. But it's even in the failures, these bright silver linings and things that come through. It's almost never a failure. You know, the you learn in the attempt. Like when things succeed, it gets to be more difficult. Like a couple things have been going really good, and we really can't identify why. We've got two or three different theories, but with failure, you can usually pinpoint it to, yeah, you effed up here, here, and here. It's harder to do with success. You really learn much more from a good, healthy failure.
Would you say there is a within your industry, would you say that there is a type of failure or screw up that would be absolutely fatal to a career, or is everything recoverable?
Only thing fatal is death. You know, I've seen.
That's the next action movie. Fatal is death.
Yeah, fatal is death. Exactly. Well, it just doesn't do that. Like I saw this, I was going over through a bunch of quotes and stuff that I trying to kind of find the quotes while I've been building this new platform of sort of guideposts of wisdom that I either discovered or that I 100% agree with having gone through this. And they have this one thing where they got this wolf snarling, you know, really big picture, and it says, "If I'm not dead, I'm not done." You know, I went, well, yeah, that kind of. I have days where I feel like that, you know.
That is me and good.
Yeah, well, and the real one we use all the time is the Black Knight never loses. You know, I'll bite your legs off. You know, come back.
Tis but a scratch.
We'll call it a draw. You know, yeah, I'm very much like that. In fact, my kids laugh about that because, yeah, it's tough to beat somebody who won't quit.
Yeah, for real.
That's the thing that I got going for me is I want it more than some people, and I will just keep going.
We don't want these to go on that long because we want them to be we want them to be digestible, and there can be a lot of us in a small space of time. So Barry, leave my listeners, our viewers, for at least the duration of this thing. They're mine afterwards, with some degree of wisdom, with thought, some brain drippings that you would like to spread upon the visual landscape.
I don't know how to follow. Your question is so much better than any answer I'm going to have. Brain drippings. Wow. You know, I think, you know, I've talked to a lot of my friends, even when we were talking about the concept of this thing, you know, I mean, this is a podcast that all of us would love to see. Even like you talk, like one of the things I have on my LinkedIn that gets me in trouble is I don't look like the people that, you know, I think the truth is funny. So I have on there, you know, I'm an Emmy loser. I had my own record deal in Warner Brothers. I went double cardboard, you know, had a failed label on Sony, you know, like I think that stuff's funny. It happens to be true.
You can find my greatest hits in a trunk at the bottom of the sea. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I think my mom bought all 7 copies, you know, that kind of deal.
but I'm not ashamed to fail. Like I think shame is the big thing. People act like you should be ashamed of your failures, and I'm not. In fact, I'll give you 20 minutes to draw a crowd. I'm about to try something crazy. Come on in, bring them in. Let's do this. I think I think the only shame is not trying.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
I'm not afraid to fail. It's like it doesn't, and some of it was my childhood, which well, we'd have to be doing a therapy class instead. But yeah, I don't. It's one of those things that it doesn't bother me to fail. I just get back up. Who was great at anything the first time they tried it?
If you put in the work, sucking is just a way station along to competency.
Yeah. Well, that quote, you either succeed or you learn.
Yeah.
There is no failing in failure.
And again, another thing that I agree with, just did not have something witty to say to it.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Occasionally you run out. It just at some point you're just dry and it's sort of like
Well, it's also too that was like that took a decidedly serious turn. Sorry, I'm normally funnier. You've caught me late in the day.
sorry that I dropped a nugget of wisdom just as a nugget of wisdom.
Yeah, yeah, it should have been. I could go back to hookers and bikers and sailors. Oh my.
You could, but only if your wife is not around.
Yeah, well, that's pre-wife, so I can tell the whole story then.
All right, man. Barry, shamelessly plug yourself. I know you've got a whole bunch of stuff to spew out here.
All right. So my core business is licensing music to film and TV. So I've got a company called musicsupervisor.com. So we do music services for film supervision, editing, composition. We, do all of those things. For artists and stuff, we have a company called wegetartist.com where we represent artists for film and TV placement. And we're really, really good at that. So you can go check that out. Those are the two places. And then I've got some evil plans. Got to start a little music revolution coming up. So you are forewarned and forearmed.
Well, there it is. That was the Barry that is Barry Coffing. And speaking of Mr. Coffing, was there a question you would have liked me to ask? If so, throw it down in the comments and I will be sure to pester him with it, because that's just the kind of guy I am. And speaking of pestering, follow me on all the socials and also subscribe to the channel. Next week, I'm joined by the digital diva herself, Ruth McCartney, and we will find out what it's like to be the sister of rock royalty.
I got beaten up. I got my hair chopped off. I got my lunch stolen. I had some kid pee in my Wellington boots in the cloakroom. I got beaten up with 2 Bibles. I got knocked over the head.